Every single day has 24 hours. And no matter what, it cannot be more than 24 hours. To some, 24 hours is a burden. To others, it's still inadequate. But that's the way it is. No matter what it is, it's only 24 hours, no more, no less. And that's the bad news for those who want more. But the good news is that no matter what it is, you are the pilot. You decide on what to do with your 24 hours every day. So good or bad, it's up to you. Welcome to Reflections. My name is Yusuf Nadab Usman. On this program every week, we try to look deep into the Nigerian society and then, talk to those who have really made marks in history, made marks on Nigeria, made marks on Nigerians, and of course, talking about their international and national exploits. And for those who must have, come along with us last week or the week before, if I may say, those who must have been following this program, my personality this week is not a stranger here. He was here sometimes, and of course, we are going to continue our discussion with him this week. My personality for this week is Major General Paul Chabri Tarfa, the 81-year-old Yerima Garkida. Welcome to Reflections, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I just said, I want us to maybe use some portion of this 55 minutes we have, sitting and talking much more about what you are unable to exhaust. The other time we talked about your own life story. We talked about your elementary days through secondary school, through Nigerian military school, up to Canada, back to Nigeria, and of course to Congo, where you served on the United Nations peacekeeping force, and you came back home. At the end of it, we rounded up with a very humorous note, that is, you bought a car and went home with it. And a lot of people were there. I could remember you saying that a lot of girls there in Garkida wanted you to be their boyfriend. And of course, a lot of people, young girls, young boys really, wanted to join the army. That was how we ended up. Let's continue from there and then move a little bit into some more serious issues now. We've gotten your background. We ended that in 1964. Now, let's get started with the major issues, talking about Nigerian history. Let the truth be told. I'm just very much interested in that very phrase. Let the truth be told. January 15, 1966 was, or rather will really keep remaining as a very dark day in Nigerian history, looking at what really happened, the first coup ever. And that really shaped or reshaped Nigeria to what it is today. You were more or less like at the center of this, and our viewers would want to know, as a retired Major General, what really transpired on that day and how historic, negative or positive it was to Nigerians before, Nigerians today, and maybe Nigerians in the future.
Now, January 15, 1966, to those of us who experienced it, I was a second lieutenant. And before that time, we were like brothers and sisters, elders and juniors, everything perfect, I would say, as a second lieutenant. At that stage, we did not know anybody by where he came from, or by name, or religion, or anything like that. We ate together, we play together, we quarrel and settle ourselves together, we go out and, if you like, socialize in any way. As officers in the Nigerian army. But sadly came that day called 15th January 1966, a day that I think very few knew that it was going to come, but it came. It took everybody, at least, I would say, more than 80% by surprise. Only those who planned it knew it. But I must say this. There are certain things that many people still don't know or did not know. That coup, even myself, I used to think, it was planned by Igbos or Igbo officers and something. That was wrong. It was not as it is said, or as it was said. Very few. But those who joined were conscripted by mayor saying, okay, we will do this, we will do that. But don't forget, at that time, we were young, and the radicals were few. That was a period that Nigeria was also a young country, only 5 years as an independent country. What experience was there? Even our leaders of those days were in their 50s. Everything, you learn it by experience, by endurance, by patience. Unfortunately, some, with due respect to them, whoever were behind them thought they had answers to what was happening and just branded the country as corrupt, even calling officers or men who were in fact so good, God-chosen, who were pillars, who fought for independence for the country, suddenly were toppled, ghastly at night. The very honorable man called Amechi, who was a minister in those days, he said something. He said, what took us 36 years to build was destroyed by irate officers in only 6 years. He mentioned that at Base University here in Abuja. No, there in Abuja, as I said, at a lecture. I attended that. I was very privileged. I went there. He said they have worked as leaders to get the country on its footing, because it was the day that even we as junior officers started to know, okay, so if your name is Ade, you may be a Yoruba. If your name is Chuku, you may be Igbo. If your name is Hassan or Auta, you may be Hausa. And those of us who are from so-called minorities, if your name is Chabri, or if you are Christian, you are this and that. It was from that day that we started questioning ourselves. Okay, you cannot do this. Okay, you cannot talk to this man. Okay. That was the seed that was planted. You see? But he didn't die. Because of the manner that seed was planted. Can you imagine why I think the scar still remains? You see, imagine, it was done by largely of Igbo extraction. But not to say that they were unanimous about it. Oh, they were very fine officers, absolutely fine officers, who were told, even the night to the coup, or whispered by others, oh, we are going to do that. And some, in fact, were told, if you don't take part, you will be taken as a saboteur, and the consequences will be severe.
Okay, so now against this background, one can safely say that the January 15, 1966 coup opened the gate for coups in Nigeria, looking at what happened in July 1966, what happened in 1975 would go on, what happened in 1983, and on it went up to the time the civilians took over finally in 1999.
Certainly, it set us back in my own way of assessment, more than 100 years back.
More than 100 years back.
To me, we probably would have, well, God knows what plans he had for the country, but it did not help us. So from that afternoon, even from that very afternoon of January 15, 1966, with due respect, Chikuma, who was the ringleader, was not safe. Officers, young officers like me, officers who are here in Kaduna and other places in Ibadan, who are of northern extraction, on hearing that, oh, all the northern officers of high grade were eliminated that night, including officers of Western region. As it were,
You, in a way, saying that the January 15, 1966 coup did not succeed in spite of the casualty?
if I would say that, knowing, if you have read the book written by one Captain Ben Boulier and the one read by Ademoyega, Wole Ademoyega, their story of what happened on January 15, that afternoon, and the days after, you could see how disorganized they were, how incompetent they were, how planless the whole thing was, because they were all scattered. Read their books, you will see how.
So was there no government between the 15th of January and the 17th or 18th or thereabout? Who was in charge,
None.
therefore?
There was actually nobody at that time. But I think here were people like Alhaji Ahmad Kufi. But really, positively, there wasn't. Because, we were very loyal. People like General Gawan just came into town, in fact, maybe a day before the coup. Young people like Tiwa Danjuma, Mohammed, Murtala Mohammed, Shua, and the rest of them, they were also taken all unawares. And at that time, I was the only officer on the island in Lagos. The only officer, northern officer, to tell you that. All the others were either part of the coup or don't belong, and they had disappeared into oblivion and so on. So when the coup, the news came to me that midnight around 4 o'clock in the morning, that night around 4 o'clock in the morning, when the RSM went and knocked on the door, just to find out whether I was alive. When I looked down the window, I saw the Land Rover in front of the house, full of soldiers. And the RSM said, "Oh God, so he's still alive. Please, sir, calm down now. And he spoke in pidgin English. Even as we dare now, the country no good for we. So I jumped them and gone into the other barracks. When I asked for who, our OC, he would know. I asked for my colleague, this one. I asked for that. All of them had gone into the coup. And then I said, okay, from now onwards, I'm in charge.
My question was the vacuum so created between the 15th and the 17th or 18th before Ironsi assumed, leadership of the country.
Yeah.
That vacuum, I believe there was a government in place, headed
Yes.
by the president and the prime minister, and of course the regional heads, the premiers of North, East, and South, and the rest of them.
Yeah.
Some were killed, of course, accepted, and then the coup was there. But the parliament was in place. There was a Senate.
There was
And
absolutely.
of course, constitutionally, the Senate president was supposed to be in charge pending the appointment of maybe a transition or whatever it is. What really happened in between that?
That was so. While that was happening, the parliament were also doing meetings here and there, and it was most likely Iranzi was also part of, was consulted and so on and so on. And at the same time, General Iranzi was also talking with Chikuma Zogu here in Kaduna on telephone. Only God knows what they were discussing. And then later on the 17th, Iranzi appeared, summoned all the ministers and told them that he had to take over power to restore normalcy. But constitutionally, that was wrong because the parliament was intact.
In all mishaps, there are lessons, I believe. And in all happenings, people learn one or two things in order to, at best, avert future occurrence, at worst, manage future occurrence, and whatever the situation is. Coups have not been so good whenever they occur. Nigeria had its own share of it. 1966 twice, 75, and on it went. Have we really learned lessons from that?
We may not have said we have learned much in the sense that you still have so many people who do not know what took place, and then they still talk about what harm that was done to them. But we, on the other hand, I can say we have tried, because that is why we are still together. So because of the goodwill of those people who have the understanding, I think, right or wrong, we can say that we have learned something. Like General Obasanjo always say, we have had too much of hostility in this country. We have had too much coups in this country, and those who know about it will run away from it, if I may quote somehow, if I paraphrase what he said.
In this book, when I went through it, two personalities, stood out. In your military career, these two personalities are examples of two great values. One is Mai Malari, whom you refer to as a soldier who, had he been alive, would have saved a lot of these disasters in this country. The other gentleman is General Yakubu Gowon, whom you said is God's gift to Nigeria. Why these assumptions?
To us, even then as very young officers, the personality of Mai Malari, Brigadier Mai Malari, his impartiality, his charisma, what he stood for was something that everybody want to emulate officers alike. It was like he had no enemy. If you hear that memory is around, then if your cup is wrongly placed, you will quickly try and readjust. The name, just the name Maimalari is around.
He was a brigadier then.
Brigadier Maimalari. And he was such a fantastic officer. So much liked. Both, as an officer, even outside the office work, you just want to see Maimalari and you just want to say, I wish I can be like Maimalari. That's the kind of person he was. So the day that he was not there, that was, what a loss.
The virtue
Who do we look up to? And that was Maimalari. Because he was somebody, he was so knowledgeable. Not a question of just saying, no, Maimalari knew almost all. And he will tell you exactly where you are. Fantastic officer, fearless, knowledgeable. That's it. Go on, sworn officer. Absolutely straight. Very also knowledgeable. A human being. An officer that everybody needs to emulate and that kind of thing. Lived by example. Straight. These are the type of officers we missed.
Thank God Yakubu is still alive. At least Yakubu Gowon is still alive. Memulari may so rest in peace. And of course, we've lost one too many of a soldier in Memulari there. And there was a time when you were heading the Nigerian Defense Academy, and before you were even sent to that very academy, Buhari asked you to go there and produce soldiers like you as the head of state then in 1984. And giving such a trust to you, which you said you could not have been better than your predecessor.
When Buhari became head of state, he saw my name as Commandant, Ordnance. Now, at that time, the Defense Academy was in the process of becoming a university, a degree awarding institution. What is my name? What is this thing all about? And he invited me. So I see your name as, in the ordnance. He said, no, you have no business being in the ordnance. I'm going to send you to NTA. I said, why? He said, no, because I want our future officers to take up to your character. Thank God General Buhari is alive today. Yeah. The president. He said, I want our future officers to take up to your character. Because I understand that the discipline in the academy is bad. In 1988, I graduated 1,503 officers for the armed forces, Army, Navy, and the Air Force, including officers from foreign countries.
Good. Now, what memorable thing can you remember as the Commandant NDA at the time in those 4 years, especially in your early days as a commander, given the fact that indiscipline was very rampant then? That was one reason why you were asked to go there.
In those days, I don't know why. Cadets were just getting out at night to nearby villages like Kawo, some even as far as Zaria and so on, to come back early in the morning. And I think that is what informed General Buhari then, and President today, that I should go and bring back discipline in that. So the first 2 weeks, I observed the situation. Sometimes you find some kind of thing that had never happened, that never existed. So I said, okay, I'll blow it a tattoo. Blowing tattoo means wherever you are, even if you are sick, they will bring you to the parade. So one night, 12 o'clock midnight, I said you should blow the bugle. That means every cadet including the instructors who are nearby, would come out. We did, I say, all right, let's count which houses. Battalion, this battalion, that battalion, at the war. At the end of it, there were 48 cadets that were not present. Where were they? They were yet to come back.
From?
Yeah, they were in town. Only God knows, with maybe hellos or drinking in bars or something like that. As cadets, that's terrible. Then they came before me. I bollocked them, and I said, well, it's too much for me to handle. So I flew to Lagos, and I met General Buhari, the head of state then. He said, sir, you sent me to NDA to do something, but look at it. See, that's why I sent you there. He said, well, what do I do? Because he said, dismiss them all. Oh, no, sir, I cannot, I beg you, sir. He said, Paul, I said dismiss them all because if they become officers, they will not be good for us. During our time, there was no such thing. Dismiss them all. Then I told him, Mr. Balsa, the majority are northern cadets. I told Bar, he said, sir, the majority are northern cadets. He said, I don't care whether they are northern cadets or not northern cadets. When they become officers, they will not be good for us. Therefore, dismiss them all. What a word. He didn't collude with me and say, how many of them are Christians? How many of them are Muslims? Why do he didn't say that. He said, dismiss them all. And I respect him up to date.
Okay, now, against this background, what one would therefore, see the character of Buhari from then onwards, and then one would also see your character too in that regard, because you are almost in tune with each other as regards discipline and the service. However, one would also be tempted to ask too, and ask you really, this character which you cherish, and this character which the army cherishes, and of course, this character which soldiers really cherish as we grew up, are not the same today. And one gets bothered and wondering why. Why so?
Yesterday was not like today. We have multiplied so much in so many ways. In numbers, philosophy, culture, economy, and so on. So many evils came along as we progressed. So during our time, we were few. And it was possibly easier to control. But as we grow into thousands, with all things coming here and there, insecurity has cropped in, economy has come in, tribalism has come in, and so on. Nepotism has come into it, and so on. So it has affected the standard of our lives. And that is the reason why you cannot compare what happened in the 60s or 70s or 80s to what is happening in the 20s.
You were a Milad in Oyo State, military administrator. What would you not forget about Oyo State?
Oyo State. You see, Oyo State was a very interesting place. Even Shehu Yaradua was the one who, of blessed memory. We were playing golf, billiards one day, then he just put the cue on the table and said, Oyo people are waiting for you. Ibadan people are waiting for you. I didn't know that kind of joke. You are going there as an administrator because we are preparing for the military handing over and we need somebody who is tough. But somehow it happened that they said, I am tough.
Some newspapers, when you are posted to Oyo State as a military administrator, some newspapers had it that, Tarfa is coming with the cane to Oyo State. And there was even a caption somewhere in your book that had you as a caption that Tarfa with the cane in Oyo State. And of course, did you go there with the cane really? You left the Koboko in Lagos and came up with the cane, or how did that happen?
I went there with my barrow and with my cane. I didn't go with Koboko at all.
But you went with a cane.
Hey, of course. While they were afraid of me, I was afraid of them.
Sure?
There was no doubt about it.
Okay.
I said, oh, my God, to go to Ibadan, how can I go to Ibadan, a place so advanced like that? James Bond was a tough officer, strong officer. I'm not like James Bond. But I was going to take over for James Bond. But of course, my name was so strong that I would deal with. And certainly in the first few days, my address indicated that I was going to be tough. But eventually, we went very well along with them. And they loved me at the end of it.
Well, that was a good experience, but I don't think that experience was as good as your experience at the Nigerian Railway Corporation. What really happened, because a lot of newspapers, a lot of journalists, a lot of people felt you resigned your job prematurely.
I was told 24 hours that I was going to the post authority. Then the following day, I thought somebody said I should go to NRC and so on. But it was not a very, very exciting place. Certainly not. Every other day complained because nothing was happening at that time.
But one would think that because of your toughness, because of your rigidness, and because of adherence to discipline, and then best practices which you uphold, that could be the reason why you were sent to the railway, because railway was in shambles then.
Could you revamp it by just talking? Yeah? This is something that has decayed. Trains were not moving. Everything was obsolete. They were not getting paid. So revolt every now and then. End of month, no money. And they are asking you at the end of it, say, where is our pay? Where is our pay? As if you are the one who will give them out of your pocket. So there was no peace. I know, it's a long one.
It's a long one.
But somehow, when Omudia came to take over from me, according to them, Omudia came with all kind of intrigues that Tarfa goes, soldier go, barrack stays, soldier go, here. Omudia painted one old coach and managed to move from Lagos to Abuja or something like that. The man of action has come. Eventually, he had to go through the backyard to escape death. They were trying to stone him.
As the MD?
Of course, I was just saying how he got out of this. That was all. But when I left the thing, after now, they say, okay, I stood for them. I stood because there was, in fact, one of the reasons why I had to go, because midnight, because I spoke very badly about how the railway was treated. And Abacha called me that midnight and said, Paul, we hear that you are abusing the government. Why? I said, what is it? They said that the railway is so and so and so. I said, no, I just tried to explain. He said, well, if you don't like, we are going to send somebody else to take over from you. Meanwhile, they had already told Omudia. So the following day, Omudia was in the office to see me. He hugged me. I said, what is this, sir? She said, I'm taking over from you. I said, you are taking over from me? He said, thank you. Because Abacha told me last night. She said, fine. So I'm going to Kaduna. When I come back, I will give you a handover note. And I did. By the time I returned to Lagos, Omudia had already taken over the office without even handing over notes.
Was he working for you?
But at the end of it, only God knows how he left the railway. How I wish he was alive. He would tell you the truth about it. Paul, You know,
It was
he
a
was
tough
my
assignment,
senior.
really. It was a very tough one indeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You retired in 1988
Yeah.
from the Nigerian Army. And then, unlike your peers, you didn't join politics.
No.
You didn't go into big time farming, I must say, because Alanti just started something small and went on with it. How easy has your life been after retirement? And why the choice of just being modest all the time?
No. You know, very comfortable. Apart from doing something, you know, I had a beautiful farm on Mando Road when I was commanding NDA. So we had oranges, mangoes, guavas, and so on, all over the place. It was easy to have a place. So we used to go there. The world was good and so on. So I continued with it. And then we had uh, poultry farm also part of it and so on. But it did not continue. Apart from that, I continued to play golf, travel to Calcutta and back, and so on. It has been a very exciting life after my career until when I lost my wife. Then the life changed drastically. But we have managed and we are still pulling.
Well, may I also rest in peace.
I mean,
We sympathize and condole you with that, really.
yeah, thank you.
Sorry about that.
You're watching Reflections reaching you from the Nigerian Television Authority. We shall now take a walk round with Major General Paul Chabri Tarfa and then hear much more about his 24 hours and exactly what he does for a living after retirement. Do come along with us.
There were about 3,000.
But let me start by asking you this.
Yeah.
How do you start your day? I mean, do you start from here? Where do you start from every day if you're in Kaduna?
In the morning, they are given the feeds. So I take pleasure in being with the ladies that go inside to give them the whatever the feed as you call it, and to make sure that the water is flowing properly, and also to make sure that the canopy is open
Okay.
for fresh air and for light. Sometimes they take it for granted. And I say, look, you are paid because they are healthy and they are producing.
Okay.
If they are not, they will not be paid. So these are the necessities. And I go around sometimes and look at it. In the morning, sometimes out of nowhere, I'll come and just look, even by the noise they make, quack, 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 it makes me happy. These, as you can see, these are new plants. Somebody did it, and I did it.
Great.
Look, this avocado, that's lemon, that's a small trees.
If I should ask more about your 24 hours, what physical exercises do you do? You are 81, and look at how healthy you're looking. We've been going around this place now. I didn't see any sign of tiredness. That could be what the Hausaman say, allure and soldier still in you. So that's the strength the soldier man has. I don't know whether that's still strong with you. Oh,
Oh,
is
God.
it the routine thing or any other exercise? Any secret? 81?
81 is not, to me, is not an old age. 81 is just the beginning.
Is that so?
So, I can walk 3 kilometers. I can walk from here to the golf course and back if I wish.
Okay.
Nothing would disturb me about that, and I enjoy it. I still play golf. If I like, I can play 18 holes. And
Okay.
18 holes is not a small thing.
No, it's not a small one.
Hmm?
Not a small one, really.
Okay, but I make a routine of it. So, and it keeps me going. There are others who are perhaps older than me, who are even doing better, but I thank God I'm okay.
Let's come to diet. Well, some at your age must have stopped eating this and eating that, must have stopped doing this and doing that, must have started doing this or doing that. let's look at you and find out from you, what have you stopped doing? And what are you really doing new as an old man?
Very strange enough. I eat virtually anything.
Everything.
Believe me, I don't have, everything. I don't have so much, as they say, don't take too much egg, don't take too much meat, don't drink too much sugar and all this. Well, they are right, but today you won't believe it, I must have taken at least 6 cubes of sugar
Today.
today.
You've never been diabetic.
I don't know whether I'm diabetic or not, but
You should have known by now
no,
anyway.
well, I have never been down with diabetes or whatever they call it.
But your doctor must have at least tested you on this, because even we, the younger ones, whenever we go to the hospital, we've been asked to undergo such tests.
That's true.
You know, and the rest of them before certain medications are, or certain
Indeed,
diagnosis
I
even.
agree, I agree very much indeed.
Yeah.
But thank God, I've never been admitted in hospital or gone to hospital and be told that I'm diabetic.
Okay.
No, maybe for something else.
Fine. You're not hypertensive too.
You know,
You're not
if you give
diabetic,
me
not
champagne
hypertensive.
now, I will join you. It's true.
Well, that's great. Cannot resist asking you, therefore, maybe advice to those upcoming older men or upcoming old men, those in their 60s and 70s. What would you tell them as regards lifestyle?
I think very important. Uh, Exercise
Right.
whenever possible. You know, you don't have to be playing football all the time or something like that. But do some exercise once in a while. It's good for you. If you are not as lucky as I am, avoid all the things that the doctor says.
Okay.
Not too much sugar, not too much wine. It will hurt you. Eat within a period and stop when you are not supposed to eat.
Okay.
But I thank God I can say that so far at 81, I don't normally have headache.
Okay.
I don't have high blood pressure. Maybe because I'm not fat like you. But so far so good. I thank God for that.
Well, thank God, really. Thank God. When I was going through your book, it turned out to me like an unstoppable reading.
Yeah.
The book was well written. The story was well, well told.
Yeah.
And I don't know. As a soldier, I don't know where you got that, that knowledge from.
Okay.
That knowledge of storytelling and writing and reading. How much time do you have? We are now in your library, I can see here. And there are so many books which I know most of them have been read by you, and of course, some of them have been written by you. And then, how much time do you have? And you didn't do that in your old age anyway.
No.
You did that in your active life as a soldier, doing one thing or the other, as a military man, and of course, as a family man, as a community leader. What time did you have?
Plenty.
Plenty with that.
When we joined the army, they told us, you boys think. That's the one they said. You boys think. They do not read in the army. You have not started. At NMTC, you say it is from here that you will start reading until you are tired of reading. So that's why you find that if you are a true army brought up officer, your knowledge is limitless because you are made to read and write. You are. Look, most of these books here, you can see. I have read many of them.
Okay.
You see, like
From third world to first,
this
there.
is,
This is the Marshall Plan,
Yeah.
dawn of Cold War.
yeah, and you can
And you
see
have this
people
one, the
came
memos of Marshal Zoku,
book. It's a military book.
right?
You see such books.
Hmm.
All the universal.
The Great War in Africa there.
Yeah, and you can see people like this. You read them and a lot. And if you don't read, you don't know anything. I will tell you about the book written by.
Bem Gul.
See here. God knows. This is me. This is Shehu Eradua.
You fought from left.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am fourth from left.
Right.
That's me.
Yeah.
And this is Shehu Eradua.
Okay.
Others, if you ask me where they are,
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you only God knows.
My God.
I cannot talk of anybody, but almost none. The president was on the same course with me, course 5,
Mm-hmm.
but he was in Lugard platoon.
Okay, while you are in Balia
Oh, now
Platoon.
in Baleo platoon.
All
You can
right.
see, that's what we are.
That's great. And that one there.
This one
Yes.
was when I was in secondary school. That's me.
Okay.
The others were my,
This is in Yola.
yeah, my,
But we cannot end this program without, reflecting back on your philosophy of let the truth be told. It's captured in your book. And I quote you, as you said, I have good friends and relations all over the country and would not like to lose them.
Yes.
And then you said, I believe Nigeria is a creation of the Almighty God with a divine purpose, and that all the negativities are elements for growth and part of our history.
indeed,
You also said all great nations of the world went through the same process.
yes,
And we are stronger and happier together in a big and united country.
yes.
And end up by saying, long live Nigeria.
So
This encapsulates your thought about this country.
stand by that.
But a lot of people still do not see Nigeria from this perspective.
You see, I believe that Nigeria is growing by the day. You know, contrary to what many people are thinking, we can only be stronger. And, socially, economically, whatever it is, today this country is such that what is happening, say, in Oyo State is being envied, say, in Gombe State, is being copied, in Adamawa State, is being envied and so on. And there's that unity. Business people are so intertwined. The military has gone back to a large extent to what it was before. There's a lot of friendship, a lot of unity within the services. We have intermarried a great deal. There's hardly any tribe that has not intermarried with another, and so on. So, I believe that this is growth. You take a look at America. Take a look at all great countries. It was not within 10 years, or even 20 years, or even 50 years that they grew to strength. No, many years. Today, you don't know, is an Italian, is married to an Indian, and he's an American. An Italian is married to an Englishman, he's American. A French is married to a German, and he's American. All of them are welded together. We are against that. My sister, two of my sisters, one was married to a Margi man, the other one married to an Igbo man. My junior, my senior brother had 4 daughters, as if he distributed them, one in Ondo, one in Asaba, and so on. And not only me, so are others like this. So with this, as we grow, year after year, we are getting stronger and stronger. And I believe what I said in this book is coming to fruition.
Amen.
That we can only be stronger. Even if, I believe today, that even if we want to separate, it will be very difficult for us to separate. It will be very, very difficult for us to say we are going our which way. No, it is not possible. So we are going to be stronger.
All right. It will be justified, lastly, to have a program like this with you without talking about the northeastern part of this country. And then at the moment, you're the chairman of the Northeast Development Commission. And then it will be really unfair for me not to talk about Garikida in particular, and then, of course, the Northeast in general and Nigeria generally. The Northeast Commission, which you had, is a creation of the Constitution and, of course, trying to put things right due to insecurity, the victims of insecurity and things like that. I don't know. I don't know. A word from you will carry some great weight, especially to those in the Northeast and Nigeria generally. You would be in the best position to talk to Nigerians about this peace enterprise.
I believe what is important for us to take note of is how we think and interact, what we think of consequences of our actions, and what we look forward to. Take a look at our past and a look at what the future should be. Which way do we choose to go? So my advice and wish is that we should try as much as possible to forget about doing evil and live at peace with one another. Forget about where you come from, what religion do you practice, what your name is, and so on. Especially for us in the North in particular. You see, with due respect, as I said before, when I was a second lieutenant, I said, why should I live if people like Sardauna, Tafa Mai Malari, Kur Muhammad, James Palm should die? They were not from Garkida, and they were not Bura people, they were not Christians. And so, but I said, why should I live if they should die? But today, you find it is the contrary, it's the opposite. Somebody who is not speaking, who does not even understand what sacrifices were made and what we stood for unity of the country, will just say, I don't like this, I don't mind people like that. We'll deal with them. And in Hausa, you say, Laur Arne. These are people who need to be told that this is not what it should be. Look back and look at what it is today. If you don't know, ask. Maybe it will help you. So I think there is need for people to understand that we are today because of what was done yesterday. And I think that is the idea.
Well, thank you so very much, sir. It's our pleasure being part of, the making of history in Nigeria. And of course, we are so much grateful for the time you've given us to have this insight into your life story. Thank you so much.
Thank you indeed.
Thank you,
Yusuf, and thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate so much indeed.
Thank you, sir.
Well done.
And we must really thank you so much also for coming along on this program. It's Bureau Reflections with Major General Paul Chabri Tarfa, the Rima Birkida. I'm Mr. Bye-bye.